good. Yeah, I just had this moment where I was like, why do I feel so sad? I feel like deeply sad, and I just keep forgetting that what we're doing right now is not actually what we do. We don't get to be in
Mhm.
spaces with each
Yeah.
other dancing big. And then I wonder why, what that thing is that's like just behind me that I'm craving. And every time I try and look at it, I'm like, ooh. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely yesterday I was like, I just want to be dancing big.
Yeah.
And there's only so
Yeah.
much skipping you can do in public before people are like, what are you doing?
I gosh, yeah. And think, we've had just massively long, many faculty meetings about what's happening in the fall. And, just this idea of trying to teach improvisation and, not having touch as part of a movement class is just like, it, it makes me it's so much of what we're about, or like dancing and partnering, and it's a
Yeah.
very confusing kind of period to be a mover and teacher
Yeah.
of movement.
Yeah,
um,
I definitely feel like I've spent so much time cultivating these very particular practices that are, and I definitely feel that I've learned this from you and several other folks that have like championed kindness as a tool for learning. Um, but I feel like I've spent so much time learning how to listen in very
mhm.
particular ways that are reliant on being near each other, and now I feel like I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden somebody was like, okay, we're going to take away one sense and now try to do the thing that you've been doing forever. And I would think that my other senses would kind of pick up, but they're not. um, yeah, yeah. Been spending a lot of time thinking about what is like still possible right now and
Yeah.
maybe what's newly possible, but I can feel my optimism in that kind of feel thin.
Yeah, I feel that also. I just think, particularly, I don't know, last semester I had a bunch of first year students in my improv class, and um, just a really nice group, and I felt like um, they were really grasping, what the possibilities are of moving with other bodies, and just the simple beauty in that, and to have that cut off so dramatically. Of course, it for everyone, that whole spring post March time was rough, but um, yeah, it is a sense, it's a loss of a way to communicate that for young college students who most often don't grow up with that kind of thing. It's like a new language, right? And now how do we get that back? That I also feel that optimism. I like your language, thin and as if it's really still there. I want to think it's still there, and I want to think it's going to be back while I'm still moving and thinking about, teaching and stuff. I
Yeah.
I hope it's not. Oh. Mm.
Yeah, it
Ugh.
it definitely has given room to kind of I don't know, like maybe not given. I feel like it's forced space for me to think about
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Mhm.
and like there's something really simple that's been coming up. Like I guess a couple things. One of them was like I and understanding that what we're doing now this way is never going to be the same as that. It kind
Mhm.
of gave me a little bit of lightness to go, oh, right, what we do in real spaces is never going to be replaced by a digital format. This could be another branch that could offer ways of us coming together globally or in the middle of the night, these other opportunities to be together, but it's never going to replace what we do. It's never going to replace live performance. And and I hope maybe this is kind of like helping me to hone in on why I crave that, or not even really identify it directly, but just
Hmm.
to know that I am craving something that doesn't exist in this way of interacting.
Hmm.
And the only way
Right now.
yeah, yeah. And so therefore look forward to really being in
Yeah.
spaces and kind of like sopping it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, or like,
Uh,
sorry,
no, no.
uh, I was also thinking, and I was kind of harping on this. Um, Maybe it's just like some kind of feeble engine to like keep me going at the end of spring. But yeah, I just kept thinking, oh, I do this because I really do like the way it feels. Like I really, really do like dancing because it feels really good to me. It feels really good to bend my elbows, and the way it kind of like gives me little synapse firing. I swear I can feel
Yeah.
it in my whole body, the way I kind of feel a delight. And
Hmm.
I think the part that I struggle with sometimes is when I forget about that because I feel like I'm supposed to be a better version of myself that isn't actually myself. It's just some conglomeration of people that I really admire that I'm like, that's what I'm working for. And yeah. So,
I well, I feel pretty removed from dancing right now, which, when I get into this space, which I've been in before, since I've now had a hip replacement after a knee replacement, and um, I feel really disconnected from moving, and yet I know that it's still the thing. It makes me emotional.
I know I told you.
It's still the thing that drives me, and so when I can get back to moving, I'll feel like um, I'll feel kind of right again in a way that right now I'm like, well, I'm just in this strange space, this non-dancing space, this non-seeing people in the same way space, and that this is going to change. And it's gonna be different because every time it is. And gosh, you know, getting older, there are some things that are great and some things that kind of suck. And um, but also one of the joys is watching people like you and um, kind of still getting to see shit. Look at it's good I have my glasses covering my eyeballs. Um, Getting to
Yeah,
see
beautiful.
bodies fly in the way that I think at the time I just assumed, this is just what you do. As opposed to like, oh, now it's like, oh, I remember that, and I love seeing it on other bodies, and I'm okay with not being able to do it anymore. Whereas I think for a while it was like frustrating. It's like, I'm like, okay, like be in the place that you're in and just it, do what you can do, and I think that's the thing I keep coming back to. When I start moving again, I'll just do what I can do, and that's okay.
It's wild to me because I know I've heard you say this before when you've had pain in knees after surgeries. And I have from the outside there, it's like I can't reconcile with how I'm watching you dance and how exquisite you really are, and then what you say you're experiencing. Because when I watch it from the outside, I'm like, damn, she's so beautiful. And then I look at the people next to me. I just so often, right now, I'm picturing Jasmine and like just being like, just a couple of set of eyes being like, Jasmine. And then both of us are like, I mean, so much beauty. Or Rachel and Annie, or anyone who's in the room. I mean, I feel like I've shared those eyes with every DDDer ever. I've shared them with people who've taken your class once, who've been like, I don't know why, I just want to be around her. You dance so fully, and you get this like slightly like uh it's like the most joyful, risky twinkle in your eye that's like, you better be ready, here I come. And I just feel like I've always seen you inhabit space with that, or like be generous in that way, that sometimes when I hear that you're frustrated or when you're in pain, I'm like, how is that experience the same that I just watched dance?
Well, that's really sweet and kind, and you know, I think there's power in moving, and and the joy of dancing, especially on stage. It's like, it's so weird to think, you need an audience or something, and it's not always that. It's like sometimes in a, like a jam or something, kind of getting to that place. But more recently, it's probably been in these very short performances with David's company, getting to a place where the adrenaline kicks in and the joy of moving kicks in for those 3 minutes, and then going off stage and being like,
Yeah.
But that's in that moment, just feeling like this is where I live.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about how, I don't know, the moment this pandemic happened, I was like, oh, actually, this kind of takes away all the things that I struggle with in this field. I don't have to be around large groups. I don't have to perform. I don't like, there's all these things that like, I think generate so much anxiety. And at the same
Mhm.
time, that's like, the anxiety seems to live in all the spaces around the moment of performance. Like,
Mhm.
I don't,
Yeah.
similarly, like once the performance actually starts, I feel like all the time that we've spent together kind of seeps into that space, and I've got my own snow globe. Like it's
Mhm.
got its own little culture for that dance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I can live in that, and it feels like I can push myself to offer something I'm not sure if I can offer,
Mhm.
versus I do not know how to access that, or maybe I'm not like driven to access that when I'm working by myself. And yeah, it feels like I never kind of like, I don't know driving terms, but isn't there something like a throttle that you're like, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah, something that you
Or
just want to like there's something that needs to burn off, or like the open up, or um yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Well, I think that um, you know, words have always failed me. Um, I was thinking about this just reading something in the paper today, and how as a kid, in school and stuff, I literally could not raise my hand because I was so afraid to speak. And and so to me, that is the movement is the place where I've been able to be what I would love to be with my language, with my articulation in the world that doesn't it doesn't happen for me like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What am I saying? I don't know.
No, yeah, I was just saying, um, there's, I'm sure you're part of multiple affinity groups too, just trying to do a better job in our academic spaces
Mhm,
and our teaching
mhm.
practices and continue the work that we've done, but also like go for the go for the places that need and have to be improved, changed. But I was in one of these meetings and that feeling of not wanting, it's not wanting to speak. It's like I feel like I can't figure out the double dutch, like the moment to get in. And when I
Yeah,
do, I'm like, ga, ga, ga. And I do or have noticed that like that feeling is even louder in this Zoom world. Like I really can't figure out
mhm.
how to speak and with a group at all. It is
That's
so
that's
bizarre.
that's still my challenge. Well, even in, like in in improvisation classes where we're doing a lot of discussion based on different readings and stuff like that, I always find that very intimidating. And sometimes I can hardly believe actually um, that I'm teaching and talking in front of people because or even in teaching modern technique class, like I don't think about it there so much anymore, but sometimes if I look back and think about how terrified I've been to open my mouth for most of my life, I'm just like, huh, how did that happen?
I think about it all the time. It's especially loud the 10 minutes before I start teaching, where I'm like, why
Yeah.
did I pick this? Why? And then the moment it gets started, I'm like, oh, because moving helps me figure out how to articulate things. And then I can just kind of talk about the things that I've been taught and identify, oh, this came from Lisa. This idea came from Jasmine.
Hmm.
Yeah, it feels like it comes out while I teach because I'm in the process of presently practicing it. Even the things that I've said 1,000 times over, they still feel relevant because they come up in my currently practicing body or something.
Hmm.
But
I Yeah, I think about that too, and the ways that everyone, right, have ever studied with are embedded in teaching in ways that I'm still, kind of acknowledging, oh, like, oh, that's still Sarah Pearson that I'm still thinking about here, or even my very first teacher, Fred Kelly, the tap dancer, how his play with going upside down might have started something that I've really hung on to for all these years.
right,
Um, and and even with David, learning so much about how to communicate with people, and as a way to I don't know, find joy in teaching by that thing of being kind, but by trying to pull everyone in that you think may be afraid of dancing, that may want to dance, that never ever thought they want to move. He has a very special skill at bringing people together in that way, and I feel like I'm still, because I not with the company all the time, but sometimes doing workshops and stuff, and or even if he joins me in a workshop at con or something, just like, oh, it's a special talent. Of course, we know he's very happy talking.
yes, he is. Yeah, I feel the same when I watch John. Sometimes I'm just like, wow, conversation in groups and kind of managing people socially just
Mhm,
comes so readily, and I can see him
mhm,
kind of light up, or that's his
mhm.
delight is organizing people like that. And I feel that
I
delight when
think
I'm
you do
teaching.
that too.
I
It,
love to have people together, but it just feels like if there isn't, if I'm not on, it's really like she should just go lay down. She just needs a coffee another day. Like just go, 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 go. But yeah, I at Nancy's gathering at
Mm,
Bates, our Zoom, I was just so I guess overwhelmed because I wasn't close to Nancy. I'd taken a few of her classes, but then
mhm,
on the screen was pretty much not everybody, but a sizable portion of the people that I've been shaped by.
mhm,
And including people my age and who we've been training together since forever. There were people that have been in my class on that screen that I was like,
mhm,
wow, I'm in a middle place. I BB was there. I mean,
mhm,
you and David were there. I mean, there were just Chris and Andrew, like so many people that I've been learning from my whole life.
mhm,
And yeah, I just really felt like this overwhelming presence that, uh, or I guess being fortunate to be around people who value movement and relationship so much
mhm,
that it feels like this family I didn't know I could have
mhm.
or something. That's the part that keeps getting me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you know, I mean, gosh, the loss of Nancy is just like, oof. Um, and seeing all of those faces that, I've known for so many years, and how broad her reach has been around the planet, actually, and seeing faces that I haven't seen in so many years, and that I taught with or learned from or taught younger folks like you. Um, it was really moving. And then kind of afterward, just reconnecting with a couple of folks that I haven't had direct communication with, but I saw on the screen, and kind of reached out, or they reached out. It's like, ah, an amazing community of people sharing this love for
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah, I guess that says a lot about what it is that we are doing. Not I guess. I mean, I know what we do has like this profoundly empathic listening. I know what we do has a bunch of stuff that I don't know, is difficult to explain, but then also I feel like sometimes I don't think anyone who's experienced what it's like to feel the presence of other people and to listen to them without being verbal doesn't need you to explain it.
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I just felt, and I guess this is this moment of being remote and distant is kind of it's like setting that thing aside, not aside, but it's putting it in front of me, I guess, and being like, wow, what we do is such a prolific way to be in community, like really,
Hmm.
really be in community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I too had this amazing. I have an amazing group of students here. I'm so happy I get to stay. There's a handful of them too that I was like, I will fight to stay here because I just I mean, they're incredible. They're so
Hmm.
incredible, and some of them, two of them in particular, had just gotten, I think, work studies or scholarships to go to Bates for the first time this summer.
Hmm.
And when that was canceled, I was like, shit, I just want these students to know what family dance can feel like.
Yeah.
And in that way that it's not just some kind of saccharine, like, oh, I love you kind of thing. It's actually like a deep tether that we keep pushing and challenging each other. And then we also show up for each other in the
Hmm.
most unexpected ways.
Hmm.
Um, I'm thinking about like the times that I've been most challenged have been by the people that I feel most loved by. I mean, you, that dance is so freaking hard. um, I, or,
I don't know what you're talking about.
uh-huh. Yeah, I'm sure. I was also, because I just took Jen's class on Friday,
Oh.
I was thinking about like the first time she came in to coach. light bulb theory. And good Lord, she like there were all these details that she was like, you know what, I think you can do this a little bit more. And I was like, damn it. Shit. I don't know why I thought I wanted to get away with like just kind of sneak the A out of it, just but yeah, that feedback was just this kind of like joyful stoking. And
Hmm.
I feel that way, with you and of course David, who's always like, but yeah, yeah.
What do you think about making stuff right now?
I, oh my God, I want to be in the studio so badly. I'm dying to make something. And I feel so excited about the people that I've gotten to work with. I don't know if sent it to you, but so I did another version of Burnish, the magenta piece.
Hmm.
We did one at Tisch, one at Bates, and then one at UMD.
Hmm.
And they're also freaking different. they're just they're so different. There were parts that I thought that I learned at Tisch, or thought that I learned at Bates, and then tried to kind of extract the ways that they've formed themselves and put them in the UMD, and then they didn't work at the UMD version. Um, so I still feel like I'm another version away from not finishing it, but having the version that I feel is like, okay, I get that. So
Hmm.
that still feels like it's in the works.
You have to
And
send me your UMD, your most recent one. I
mhm.
haven't seen it since Tish. So.
There's about three parts that drive me nuts. Like whenever I watch it on video, I'm like, why did I do that? It's so
I think that's
stupid.
always the way when you watch it, right?
Oh God. And then, I've spent so much time trying to learn how to be faster. I
Hmm.
don't know what it is that I learned when I was like 20 that told me I was a lopey, like slow dancer, but I've totally overcompensated for that. And in the UMD version, I'm going so fast that I'm surprised my fellow dancers on stage weren't like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Just stop!" I need to get like a red flag or something that somebody is just like, slow down, stop. um, good Lord. Yeah, so I feel excited to someday get to do another version of that. I hope
Hmm.
that'll happen. If not, I'll kind of make it happen and do a studio showing of it. I just want to be in the
Hmm.
room with those women. And then I had just started a different color, a quartet. I
Hmm.
like just for a month or so, and then all of this happened. So luckily I took video, which I never do. Whether we go back to what that stuff is, or like whether we go back to the exactness of that choreography is kind of irrelevant. I feel like I've been able to think about why move to another color and why work with these people. And um, yeah, I just want to be in a studio
Hmm.
so badly with them.
I want to come and be in a studio with you. Um, but if you ever decide to make like a silver section of, yeah,
You are
I have
ridiculous.
some ideas for you. But I, you know,
Would
with
you really?
what?
Would you really be in a dance?
Of course I would for you. Oh my gosh. Um, just have to remember I'm
I'm
really
gonna cry.
bad at learning other people's movement. But I do really want to get down and work on that duet with you and Christina.
We were just
Um,
talking about that and then making fun of each other.
maybe it can happen in the fall, depending on what happens in the world.
Yeah,
Um,
we were talking about it and saying, well, maybe um, if we can't be together in live spaces, maybe what we could do is start. If you want to send us any video to kind of prime, I realize that everything shifts, and the part that we were making fun of each other for was, like I said earlier, I've been taking your class for like 20 years, still don't really know how to do a handstand. I'm trying. I hear what you're saying. I don't know where
I
my
just
butt
don't
is.
even believe you. So continue.
and kind of same thing with Jen. Like I've been taking her class for 20 years and I took it on Friday and managed to kick everything in here and was like, what are we doing? Um, but yeah, I mean, if you want to send any video, I'd be happy to get
Sure, I
started.
can send. Well, it's funny because the duet that will be, I want to work on it, but we're gonna work off of is one that Jen and I made, and then we never really performed it. But I remember just in the very first iteration of it, there just this simple walking step where I was like, how does she get her head to go like that? Like with, just the nuance of Gen vocabulary and how each of us just have all of our individual, that's the thing that makes it really exciting and interesting, that we're moving in ways that are unique to each of us, as opposed to, trying to, you know, be exactly the same. We won't even go into that conversation, but um, it's so fun and funny and hard to try to embody other people's idiosyncrasies.
Yes, because then I don't know. I feel like the harder I try to do those things, the more it looks like I'm making fun of them. I look like some kind of balloon, like party version of these things that I'm legitimately, earnestly trying.
Yeah, I understand. I totally get it.
Well, I guess, well, with that, I think we'll just have to make a quartet version of it.
Remember where we started, where I was saying I remember the way that I moved at one time? When I look at that duet, or gosh, even older one that we had restaged on a student and a former student when I did a show at Con in 2018. But sorry, a staging of a duet that Ginger and I did in 1990. And I was like, oh gosh, it just feels like ancient, ancient history, just doing what we were doing then.
I
I
would
mean,
love to, I
it's
would love
fun
to
to
see
go
that.
like, oh, hmm.
I would love to see that duet. You and Ginger?
I- You've, you've seen, I think you've seen it. I can share it with you.
Sure would like that.
Okay. Okay. Um, but I'm thinking too about, in terms of making, well, I've never been particularly confident about making work, and even when I kind of get to a point where I'm like, oh, okay, we did this show and great. And to try to keep it going, I just start kind of tanking on that. Um, and so that's just, one of my lifelong Lisa issues. But I've also been just trying to recognize that um, it's okay to make something when I feel like I'm ready to make something, and to not be like, okay, that's over. What's next? Um, I am trying to get more comfortable with being okay with not knowing, or not needing to make something right away.
Yeah.
Or to make something in the garden instead of like, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Like a lot of people in our COVID time, I'm like, okay, fix the yard. Um, it's a
Yeah,
little
our house is
complicated.
spotless. Spotless. This is the dirtiest room because it's mine.
I have ventured into window cleaning, which there's plenty more to do, but and the gardening is pretty tricky because I'm not allowed to bend at my hip crease past 90 degrees.
So
So
you just
bending
like
over,
roll
it's,
later.
well, it's more like a one-legged issue, either deep lunge or penché kind of thing, which is making my other leg pretty tired.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. There's Lisa ponching her way through the garden.
Picking weed. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I feel I relate to that um that kind of like, well, I have momentum, so I have to keep that momentum going, even though that momentum is not real in terms of making a dance.
mhm,
Like, or that it's not directly related to my interest and my kind of like intuition to make and to change. It just feels like I'm going in to keep my hands busy sometimes, or
mhm,
to make it look like I'm working. I'm always working because I'm a Capricorn and a busybody. I'm always doing that.
mhm,
So why do I feel like I have to produce? And then conversely, like I think the three showings that I did for Burnish felt like they were more finished than I was with them. So that, like it felt like more formal showings,
mhm,
as
mhm,
if they were done when I would watch them and feel like no 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 no, I'm in a much messier place
mhm,
than that version said or presented.
mhm.
Yeah, I'm still really experimenting with these things, and something came up. I was teaching comp graduate comp last fall, and I guess I had this thought, but damn if conversation doesn't like actually bring it in front of you. Um, but just thinking about the times that I make something and I don't know if I'm really making an an alignment with my voice or the collective voice of the people in the cast, as opposed to I can feel when I'm kind of like making something and that choice is like to please somebody else.
Mhm.
I know that my mentor will like this, or I know that somebody who is often critical is going to say X, Y, and Z, and so I'm just going to go ahead and make this choice so they can kind of go away.
Mhm.
And so I think like over this past year that difference feels really loud, like what it is to listen to the collectivity of my knowledge without doubting my voice or
Yeah,
intuition.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's hard. I think that's so hard. Maybe for some people it's not, but that's certainly for me too. Or to um, or even if I'm showing something that maybe I feel pretty good about or something, and getting feedback, which I'm a fan of, even though I feel very insecure about showing work. Um, I like getting it, but and there are some moments where um, I think what I feel like I should take all of the feedback, and trying to trust myself a little bit more when there's something that I'm like, actually, no, I think I need to stick with that, not make that change because someone said this, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Like trying to pull out what's important to me, to keep pursuing rather than kind of automatically taking in and going like, okay, that's got to go, that's got to go.
yeah,
um, that it is okay to sometimes stick with.
yeah. All
And
of that, I feel loudly, and even as I was listening to you, I was like, yes, and that too. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I'm feeling very aware of that right now.
mhm,
Or just kind of, I'm feeling that way too about, um, I guess, language and academia.
mhm,
And I know that there are some people that are so, like Cynthia Oliver is so amazing at the way she languages what she's talking about and kind of relaying that to all communities. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like her language is so accessible to so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I kind of enter being in academia, there's still this other language of academia that feels very separate from myself, and I have a hard time kind of um, translating myself or feeling like I have to clear up every sentence in order for it to make sense in that world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus sometimes I really just need to talk how I need to talk because
Yeah.
this is my process and I need to value that. And if other people don't get it all the time, that might be okay.
Mm-hmm.
um, but
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's a challenge for certainly not everyone, but for some of us who maybe have been um, in the professional world more so than the academic world, where the language is, is so deeply embedded in academic languages, so deeply embedded in your conversation because that is your entire world. um, I think for those, like for me, sometimes I feel like I have a pretty strong, that whole imposter syndrome, not coming from, that uh, dance world, dance world outside of academia and into it, that I'm just always faking it a little bit, uh, and kind of not allowing myself credit for the messiness of language and how it's also it's the whole kind of where we started, the language that's inside the body as opposed to the articulation coming out through this orifice right here.
yeah, you just reminded me of being in rehearsal for your work, obviously. And I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of codified language for the way that your process unfolds. I mean, every once in a while it might be like, oh, that's an arabesque, but it is and it isn't. We're like moving through it, and how much of your coaching or kind of direction had to do with like the gesture that you just did. Like, this is what you're looking for, which gives me a ton of information to try without having to feel like I have a predetermined product that I'm supposed to represent
Mhm.
by through those experiments. Thinking about how many times we kept trying to do that one, jump up, out,
Oh,
dash, that one, and timber, and how much easier it was when we didn't like micro, now you do this and you do this. It was like collectively we needed to understand the and how much information that really does offer.
and now in the end, how unimportant that was.
It was
You're
so
making
fun
me
trying.
you're making me think about when we came out to U of I and had that rehearsal period, and both did spent quite a bit of time on these improvisations that we totally let go of, but also that was where we started to put together the trio with the shells from the
Oh,
solo that I
right.
had done, and that's kind of how that piece. Even remember, we tried all these things and pretty much threw everything out, but that was the place where that piece started to make sense.
Right, 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 right. And how I had forgotten about that. That's such a good reminder that sometimes the moments that you're figuring stuff out the most feel like they're the most still. Or like,
Yeah, it was like, oh, what was that? And nothing happened. Oh, but so much happened. And and working with you and Rachel and Annie in this kind of collaborative process where everyone is kind of just giving to the ideas that we're trying out, just how important that was in kind of in getting somewhere, in throwing things out, in kind of,
I,
finding.
Rachel to this day makes me laugh so hard in rehearsals. I just remember us standing behind you trying to pick up a phrase and we could not get it together, but yet we were trying so hard to do your movement, but it just looked better than you. And she
And
just is,
sure, that's not true, but
oh God, yeah, I think that is one of the hardest times that I've simultaneously worked and laughed.
oh, well, of
Thinking about
course,
that.
I missed having you in the final version of that piece,
I
but
want to see it.
also
I
it's
haven't seen it.
well, I have a very terrible video, I'm afraid, but I can share it with you. Um, but we did get to do, the first version, short version at after Bates that summer was that fall at Lion's Jaw,
Oh,
um,
right,
with
right.
Sasha, and you know working her very hard
What a
to learn
sweet woman.
your stuff, which yeah, she she
Somebody reminded me recently, I made that solo for her senior
oh
year.
yes, yeah.
And somebody, oh, Sarah Gibbons was like, that solo was so hard. And then I looked at some footage and I was like, why was I so cruel? It's just relentless. It's just one puzzle after another. But yeah, it's testament to how quickly and open Sasha is.
Yeah,
What a cool lady.
yeah.
So, um, yeah, Lisa, I want to get in real spaces
Hmm.
like now.
Well, I should probably go because David and I do have to go to, you remember the Guard Theater downtown, that big old theater?
Yeah, with the, um, is that this
Yeah,
one? Okay.
yeah. Marquee.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
Is
it.
that is that the one that has a visor?
Steve, of course, it's been closed, and Steve Siegel, the person who runs it, is putting together a couple of different video things, and so we're going over there to explore what he's interested in videoing, uh, and I will get to explore my half-ass dancing with one leg that doesn't go beyond 90. And So anyway, that's something that we're on to. Oh, but one other thing I did want to say before we go is just, um, kind of the years with your last year's Dancing with David, where I got to enjoy watching you so much, so regularly. Um, I think you were really important, instrumental in kind of inviting me back into David's work. Um, and um, since then, I've been inserting myself in small ways into his dances, and it's actually been really satisfying to watch what's happening, watch the progress of something, and like kind of generate a role that might fit into the landscape of what he's doing. So I want to thank you for that, because no, seriously, I I don't think that would have happened. Don't tell him, without some encouragement. Because we would joke around a lot about it a little bit, and then kind of made it a little bit more real. Um, but it's been a satisfying way to be making something, um, without maybe the responsibility of creating a larger scale piece, particularly right now, I mean, you know, my mom is here. She's gonna be 100 in September, and
Gosh.
Sam, of course, was supposed to be at college all year, but just kind of having different constraints around caring and a very kind of full and complex life. It kind of has allowed me kind of in a way that's been really nice. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna cry. But yeah, Lisa, you changed my life.
You changed my life too,
I
Kendra
love you.
Portier. And I love you, yeah.
Thank you.
And um, and as an aside for you, Jared, I don't. We just talked about what we needed to talk about. I feel like there's so many other things that it's almost like, you know, in this COVID time, in this much needed conversation about race and Black Lives Matter, there are all these things that we should be talking about, but we're talking about what we needed to talk about with each other today because we love each other and we miss each other.
Yeah, yeah, that drives our work.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay.
I love you. I'm just gonna keep doing this for a
I
while.
know. I love you now too. All right. I love you and I hope to see you in the fall. Let's work on that. Oh, and I'll send you
Yeah,
videos.
that would be great.
And we can Zoom again, not for Jared.
That would be great too. I miss you a ton.
I miss you a ton
Oh,
too. Hugs to John
will do. Will
and send
do.
us some more fun videos, please.
And Bev and Sam.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.